Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I am so excited to have with me Angelee Lopez. She is the founder of Manifest House, and we actually connected online through our love of cacao. It all started with the post and then a repost. And then I started scrolling through her page and was like, oh my goodness, she's doing all the things that I love and that I want to do. And I reached out and we had a conversation, and I knew instantly that I wanted to stay connected with her. Sometimes you just come across folks that are just like kindred spirits. And I feel that in my conversations that I've had with Angelee thus far. So, welcome on, Angelee, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, first, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. And it was so nice to hear that intro and just be reminded of how we connected via Instagram. It's so funny how those like connections can be made. And I feel the same way about you, sister, just kindred spirit. So thank you for having me here. So a little bit about myself. So I am based in Phoenix, Arizona on Akimel O'odham land, and I'm the founder of Manifest House. I'm also a meditation teacher, and I love to teach and hold space for other women who are on their healing journeys, on their spiritual journeys. And I started Manifest House in 2020 after years of being on my own healing journey and like really in the depths of just sitting with my life and changes that I needed and wanted to make and learnings and trying out all of these different healing modalities. And, I was able to really change my life through those tools that I was finding. And I was so eager to share it with others. So Manifest House is an online healing space, and we center the stories and journeys of BIPOC women. We're also open to allies as well. And to put it simply, it's a space for us to heal and grow together. So we offer over 13 live stream healing events every single month. So these opportunities to gather, whether it's through a guided meditation, a sound healing, a cacao ceremony, EFT tapping, there's quite a few different modalities that my team and I bring in. And also, a space to tune in on your own. So we also offer on demand, meditations and journal prompts and things for you to tune into when you're needing that extra support. So really it's all around self and collective care and supporting each other as we are on our journeys and like rooting down into collective care and community and what it means to be on these our own journeys but doing it together.
And I'll say, in our first conversation that we had a couple months ago, I was speaking to you at a really raw time, and I was like trying to figure out, how am I going to launch this first course? And you said something as simple as just start talking about it. Like, as soon as you can, even if you don't even know when you're going to launch, how you're going to launch it, just start talking about it. And I think I hung up with you. I was like, I'm going to do that. And I think the next day I started talking about it, and it started to feel more real because I had all these ideas around what it was going to look like and what it had to be. Um, but hearing you say what the vision of Manifest House is, with like that self care, collective care, and even self empowerment piece, is something that is from the founder herself, like literally in a conversation with a complete stranger at the time, completely left me moved. And the course launched. We're actually in week 6 right now. And this week is all about connecting with ancestral realms, which is perfect because the day that we are recording this is on November 1st, All Saints Day, Dia de los Muertos. And so
Yeah.
everything timed out perfectly because I didn't know what the timing was going to be. And it's all aligned perfectly with just things that have happened with calendar dates, and all of it. So I just wanted to thank you, side note, for that conversation, because I think it really does capture the essence too of what you're bringing to the community at Manifest House.
Oh, Thank you so much for sharing that. And I yes, that conversation also left me like feeling so inspired and full. And anytime that I can share something that has helped me, especially when it comes to growing a business as a woman, as a spiritual woman and entrepreneur. I want to do that. Like I am very big on being open and supporting other women, and also asking for help when I need it, like asking for support and advice when I'm stuck. So that's been something it's an active practice for me to like really be open and also asking for that support and advice when again, when I need it. So yeah, I'm grateful to have been in discussion with you about those things. And I've loved watching your beautiful course just bloom and unfold. It's been yeah, it's such a special space that you're creating.
Thank you. So, when I have people come on here, we usually talk a little bit about what are shifts that you've gone through in your life, times where you knew that something had to change. I think one of the things when we are going through life transitions, it can be hard in the moment to really put words to the experience that's happening, not just at a physical level, but an emotional level and a spiritual level. When your identity is changing in a way that in the moment you may not realize until you have a little bit of space from it to be able to say, wow, look at that thing that I was going through in that time. If someone had told me that this is what it was going to look like on the other side, I wouldn't have believed them. So I'm just wondering if there are any moments that you can point to recently, or maybe not even recently, where you're like, now that I look at it, that was a big transformation that I was going through.
Yes, absolutely. So the the story that comes to mind first is when I was living I currently live in Phoenix, as I shared, but I used to live in Seattle, Washington, and I spent a lot of time there. I spent 6 years of my early 20s, post college, building my career, and this was before entrepreneurship. And I really grew up there in a big way. And I recently went back just a few months ago, and I've been back before since I moved. It's been about 3 years since I've been away. But this time I went by myself, and I went for a dear friend's wedding, but I had a lot of time and space before that event to just, do whatever I wanted to do. And I had this moment as one of the things that I love the most about the Pacific Northwest is the nature. And it's something I've missed dearly since moving back home to the desert. Now, I love the desert as well, but it hits different, right? It's a different environment completely. And I was in Seattle and I was walking through this, urban, they call them the urban parks. And I just had this realization of how much I've grown and how different my life is from when I was, in Seattle and preparing to leave and move back home. And it was this moment of like deep gratitude for that woman that I used to be and all of the struggles that she went through, and gratitude for like the life that I'm building now. This is like big full circle moment. And to go a little bit deeper into the specific shift that I made, one of the biggest was the work that I was doing day in and day out, my career. So when I graduated college, I got what I thought on paper was my dream job, right? Like, and it was like I was really excited about it. I was making more money out of college than my family had made. When my dad was still alive and in our family business, like, so it was just all of these things that, right, as a Latina woman and one of the only people in my family to go to college, one of the only to get a career type of job. Like I felt this sense of accomplishment, but also this sense of like pressure to hold it, to keep it, right? And the thing is, like, I was so excited and I moved. I moved to across the country, and I knew within 6 months of being at that job that it wasn't for me. I knew that I wasn't in the right place. And my intuition was like telling me and trying to send me signals. And I was hearing her. That's the thing. Like, I was hearing her, but it felt too, it just felt impossible. Like, what do you mean I'm not in the right place? Like, I worked so hard to get here. So I stayed at that first job for 4 years, even though I knew that I was not in the right place, and I kept working my way up the ladder. And I was working in business and supply chain, so it was very, very like black and white, analytical, kind of ruthless job. And while I was successful, I felt like I was betraying my soul. Like, I literally felt as if walking into that space was like taking all of my life force, taking all of my energy. And it would show up for me in the feelings that I had walking into the office, like noticing this like tightness in my chest, this like deep sense of anxiety as soon as I walked in the building, right? And because I didn't know how to like take that next step yet, it really it began to take a toll on my physical and my mental and emotional health. So I started to experience a lot of anxiety, panic attacks. I fell into a state of depression, and I was just like, I got to the point where I knew I needed to ask for help. to I knew I needed something different, and I didn't have the tools yet. And so I started by going to therapy. I found the most incredible I feel very lucky that after some trial and error, I found the most incredible therapist. And she was actually, just she obviously had the like Western, typical tools, but she was also very spiritual, and she didn't reveal that part to me, up front.
Yeah.
But she began to like weave in these spiritual practices. And I think that that is how I started to feel safe with them, because I had a religious upbringing, and I had these preconceived notions about spirituality and this type of work. So I began to feel safe to venture into it, and it worked. I began to notice all of these shifts in who I was and how I was feeling. And so fast forward, eventually I left that job. That was one of the hardest decisions I made, because I took a huge pay cut. I was moving to this completely different industry that made no sense on paper, but my gut was telling me this is the right thing to do. And meanwhile, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I wanted to build a business. But I knew, I wasn't yet ready to do that full time. And so that next job kind of got me a little bit closer to where I was heading, just like one more step in the right direction. Um, and then eventually, it led me back home to Arizona, where I continued to feel that call to birth some sort of space for healing. And I then got laid off in 2020. And that to me was like the signal from the universe of like, this is it, you are ready, go. And
Mm.
so ever since then, I've been just continuing to follow that truth within me.
Love that you mentioned it as following the truth within you, and something that took time to be able to take that step, right? Because you said 6 months in, you knew it, but you stayed, and then you shifted,
four
and then
years
yeah, and then you
Don't
shifted again.
yeah. I don't stay as long as me. Like, I wish, looking back when I got out of that. So if anybody's listening and they're like in that, type of environment where it's like it's all wrong, like there's just everything about it is not right for you, and that. I do wish I had jumped sooner. Like, I wish I had found something else, because once I was in a space that just had more humanity, I looked back and I was like, I wish I did that sooner.
Yeah,
So, no regrets. I don't have any regrets at all for how my journey unfolded. But once I got out, it was on the other side. Yeah, it just felt like this like breath of fresh air.
yeah. But if you think about it though, I don't wanna put words into your mouth, but I think it'd be interesting to reflect on where we keep ourselves in a place of perceived safety because of our backgrounds. Like you were saying, you're the first one to go to college. What this meant for you to be able to have this dream job, I think about the pressures of that all the time. I also am the first one in my family to go on and get not only my bachelor's, but my master's, like to have that other storyline, that narrative in the back of our head of like, you have to stay in a place or you have to achieve X, Y, or Z because of everything that's been sacrificed for you is something that was always really hard for me to kind of balance that of I understand and I'm grateful for the sacrifices that were made and what it took for me to be the one to do that. But also recognizing, like you said, like to lead with my truth of what feels right and aligned for me, even
Mhm.
if I think it's not honoring, because it's not the truth though, because it is, it's honoring the free will and the capacity to do something, because no one will ever be able to take away my education from me. Right.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's honoring our families and our lineages in a different way, right? It's because when we when we say yes to following our heart, that is freeing and healing so many people in our and ancestors in our lineage who didn't have the privilege to do that, right? Maybe they wanted to do something different. They wanted to follow their heart. Maybe they didn't even want to have children or have a family, or especially right as we think about the women, like
Hmm.
how many of them didn't have that freedom of choice. And so to me, I remind myself of that all the time. Like I am honoring my ancestors by following my heart in ways that I know they are so, so proud of me, right? Even if maybe my financial goals aren't met yet, maybe I, am not making as much money yet as I was in the corporate world. Like the freedom that I feel in my heart and my
Mm.
soul, the impact that I'm making, they're so damn proud of me.
That's
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you started to touch on some of the tools that you were leaning on during those moments of transition.
Mm,
Therapy is one of those. And I love how you talk about um, being able to speak up and say what it is that you needed. I'm
mhm,
curious, with the other tools, the Western tools that your therapist had mentioned, what other tools aside from like therapy or traditional things that we may think about when we're going through a transition, were you also finding yourself leaning on during those times?
mm. Yeah. Um, One of the big tools that supported me during that time was meditation. And because this has been one of the practices that has supported me the most, that's where, I felt this call to begin to go deeper and see how I can share that with others. So that has led me down the path of, meditation teacher training and all of these things. But there was there was this practice that is so simple, but it is something that truly changed my life when I was like stuck in this burnout, cycle of, especially like in that corporate world and just like lost in the busyness of my everyday life. So I started doing something that I call 8-minute mornings. I just, you know, it's something that I just started calling. But anyway, so I started doing this thing called 8-minute mornings. And this is when I was still working my corporate job. And so I would give myself 8 minutes every morning. I would set a timer on my phone so that I wasn't worried about missing something, about getting to work late, about, catching the bus, all these things. So that kind of like setting that timer and then putting my phone across the room just allowed me to feel this sense of like ease. And then I would light a candle. I'd really like set my space. I would play music, or I would do a little bit of yoga, do a quick meditation, maybe a guided one, or sitting in silence. I would journal. I'd have a gratitude practice, and then also just free write anything that was coming up for me that day. And, at the time, that's really all I guess, quote unquote, time that I had to allocate to myself. But when I started doing that consistently, going from, rolling out of bed, grabbing my phone, checking my email, immediately putting my nervous system into the state of like fight or flight. And then I began to, I shifted into doing this practice for myself every morning. It completely changed the game for me. So I started very small, and I think that that's something really important to think about is like it doesn't have to be an hour, of like a ceremony, a meditation. Like it can be 8 minutes. It can be 8 minutes and you can change your life with that. So um and giving myself that freedom to see what it is that I need that day. So sometimes it is a meditation practice for me today. Most of the time, that is part of my ritual, my morning ritual. But it could also be journaling. It could also be laying on my yoga mat and crying. Right? Allowing myself to just release, to feel. And I did that often during that time. So just being really open to what it is that I need, and allowing myself to just meet myself where I'm at that day. So yeah, that's a practice that I like highly recommend. And then as I begin to kind of go deeper, astrology has been really supportive for me. Um, I'm not an astrologer, but like I love kind of learning about it and learning more about my chart. And shout out to Ilona Pamplona. She's a resident astrologer at Manifest House and also a dear friend of mine who has, given me private readings and things to go deeper into my birth chart. Um, that has been very supportive because I began to receive affirmations of things that I've been experiencing throughout my life, or noticing how my placements reflect my personality. Like it's very, very fascinating. So that has also been supportive for me. And then, more recently, I would say in the last like few years, leaning into indigenous medicines and learning more about my upbringing, my culture, my ancestral roots, and following my intuition, and noticing like what lineages are calling to me, what's speaking to me, and which ones aren't, and being okay with that, right? And not forcing myself or telling myself that I have to learn about everything, that I have to go deep everywhere, because I don't believe that that's the way. Like, sometimes we feel like we, especially as practitioners and healers, like we need to accumulate all of these like certificates and modalities and all these things. And so I've really been trying to disconnect myself from that, because I think that's rooted in scarcity as well, and to really just like listen to what am I being drawn to, what am I being called towards, and and how can I learn directly from those carriers of that medicine, of that lineage? So, yeah, that's been something that has been a journey in these last 2 years or so.
Astrology is fascinating. And I joke all the time. I've been obsessed with astrology since I was a kid. And
Yeah.
I don't even know how or why, but I know that they used to sell this book at I think it was either like Sam's Club or Costco. It was called The Book of Birthdays. And I got it when I was a kid.
Yes. Have
And
that book.
yes, so I had it since I was a kid. And my
Wow.
sister was going through my old books that are at my mom's house, and I have it on my bookcase over there. I also had a book, it must have been like 8 years old when I bought it. And I didn't buy it, my parents bought it for me. Um, it was a book on crystals. And so, like, these things that as a child, that we were drawn to, astrology for me is the one that has always been very much like, I want to learn more. I'm not an astrologer, but I
Mhm.
will read for hours if I could,
Yeah.
to understand more about it, because I think it's fascinating when you start to learn what is in what houses, and when you start looking at transit charts and what's happening in the skies and how it affects you, like, that is fascinating. And I love digging into it because it helps me feel a little bit more connected to the collective and to the
Mm,
world and to the universe. And so I'm curious, what are your
yeah.
big three?
Yeah. So I'm a Libra sun, and I'm an Aries moon, and a Sagittarius rising. And I
Mm.
have a Capricorn stellium and a Scorpio stellium. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
I got a lot of that. I got a lot of that energy in my chart. And when I learned that I had both of those stelliums, I was like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense. But I'm a Libra. I am on the cusp. So I'm a cusp with Libra and Scorpio. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you've highlighted some really great practices that that you were saying that you mentioned or that you've mentioned that were very supportive for you. So therapy, astrology, journaling, the ritual piece is a big one. One of the things in the course that I just did every week, I mean, I wanted to do like a daily ritual for 8 weeks, and someone spoke some sense into me. They're like, how about you just pare it back? Not everyone's like you. Not everyone's going to be able to do a ritual every single day. Because for me, a ritual is exactly like you said, it doesn't have to be this long, drawn out process that takes forever. It's really about coming back to you, having that moment for you to like be grounded in your own energy too, right? So I love that you mentioned the 8 minute morning ritual. If I could do it every morning, like a full long one, as long as I would love, I probably wouldn't, I don't know that I would get onto many things throughout the day. But an 8 minute morning ritual with all the ways that you mentioned, I think are so supportive, especially for people that are in a corporate setting and maybe are starting to get a little bit more interested in this side of how to have a different type of practice, that it doesn't have to be, um, some long drawn out, like I have to sit a certain way with my hands in a particular mudra. It is
Yeah.
meet yourself where you're at. Just like you were saying, you would meet yourself on the mat every single time. And sometimes that was just crying, and that's okay. And I think that's something that can be a big hurdle for people to get past, is like these perceptions of what they think it has to look like. Yeah. So I am actually going to shift over to, no pun intended, and would love to have you share a little bit about how people can reach you, what you have going on right now, and opportunities to connect with you.
Okay. So yes, definitely. Folks can reach me at Manifest House on Instagram. Our website's www.manifesthouse.com. And the membership opens 4 times a year. We flow with the seasons of nature. So we open right before we step into that new season.
Amazing. And not to put you on the spot, but if you feel so called, would you like to guide the listeners through a very short practice? Doesn't have to be very long.
I would
Yeah.
love to. Yes, of course.
Awesome. We'll take it away.
Okay. Let's see here. So I think I would love to guide everyone through just a brief meditation. So, wherever you are, hopefully you are in a space where you can be seated with your eyes closed. But if you're driving or on the go, that's okay. You can still participate. Just um, find a way to draw inward and focus in on the words that I'm saying. You can continue to do whatever you are doing. But if it's available to you, go ahead and find a comfortable seated position, and you can place your palms facing downwards on your lap or perhaps upwards, whatever feels best for you. And close down the eyes when you're ready. We're going to begin by taking a deep breath in through the nose, holding it at the top, and then letting that go out through the mouth. And doing that again, in through the nose, hold, exhale, let that go, dropping the shoulders down and back, continuing to breathe at your own pace, softening the space between the eyebrows, noticing if there's any tension in the jaw, seeing if you can unclench, maybe dropping your tongue from the roof of your mouth. And just allow yourself to arrive into the space, letting whatever you have going on after this fall away for these next few moments. Good. And in your mind's eye, in the space of imagination, I want you to picture yourself in your favorite spot in nature. Perhaps at the beach, in a forest, in a meadow. Maybe you've been there before, or maybe it's somewhere you've never been. And as you soak in the essence of this special sacred place, noticing what you see around you, what does the temperature feel like on your skin? What does the ground feel like beneath your toes? Here you feel safe, you feel more yourself than you have all week. And here there is nothing to do, there is nowhere to be. Nature reminds us that everything will take place in its own timing. Nature reminds us that we are allowed to grow at our own pace. And so perhaps placing a hand over your heart, and on your next inhale in, as you soak in the magic of this beautiful space and nature, say to yourself, I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. I am trusting in my unique journey. I have medicine to share with the world. You can place your hand back down and beginning to say goodbye to this special place, knowing that you will be back, and perhaps leaving an offering for the land, maybe a drop of water, a flower, whatever you have, saying thank you, thank you, thank you to the wisdom of Mother Earth. And then allowing yourself to arrive back into your body, bring your awareness back to the room you are in. Feeling the touch of the clothes against your skin. Noticing what sounds are in the room you are in. And once more, deepening your breath. Big breath in. And an audible exhale, let that go. When you are ready, you can open your eyes back up. Thank you for letting me guide you in that meditation. It was such an honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will be sharing all the ways to connect with Angelie in the show notes. Until next week. Bye.
Thank you so much.